I have with me here Paul Gibbs, which is exciting for me at a number of levels because Paul Gibbs is part of the Pais Movement. Hello, Paul.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited because I was on the Pais Project back in 1995 to 96. I was East Manchester. That was the Pais Project. It's now the Pais Movement. It's not just Manchester and the UK. You're now properly global, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're in 20 different nations. I just got back from Kenya a couple of days ago, and I think we have about seven. We're working in seven nations presently, but I also met three kind of national directors in training. So probably a year or two from now, we'll be really active in about 10 different African nations. So, and obviously we're in Asia as well, and Australia and North America, South America. And Europe, and we're actually right now, Andy, we're actually recruiting more national directors. So if there's people listening to your show and they're interested in bringing Pais to their nation, we've got the infrastructure now to really make that happen as well. So yeah, we're growing. Obviously, COVID was a difficult time for us, as your listeners will hear. When you hear what we do, obviously COVID was very difficult, but actually we come through it much stronger, and we're very excited about the future at the moment.
Which is so exciting. So for people who don't know what the Pais Project was or what the Pais Movement is, just give us a little bit about what you're doing today, and then we can go back in history and see where it came from.
Okay, yeah. So essentially we're kind of missionary outfitters. We're all about helping people live a life on mission. And we have three major programs, you could say. One is our apprenticeship, which is what you experience. So young adults can, remember, that was when you were young, of course.
Yes,
but
a few years ago.
A long time ago. Young adults can work with Pais. They can work with Pais locally, or they can travel overseas and join Pais, a team. They work with a team. They receive a mentor, people who are going to disciple them. They receive training. And for a year or longer, they're put in a team and they serve God, advancing his kingdom, often in youth ministry, but sometimes in businesses as well. We train them in leadership, discipleship, Bible study, mission, evangelism, all these great things. We put them in a program that helps them become what we call more kingdom-centric. So kind of a spiritual transformation program that really grows them closer to God. So that's the apprenticeship. It's free. One of the amazing things about it, it's free. So people's accommodation, training, and most of their meals are provided for. So people just need to get on a flight. Maybe they need to get a visa, or they can do it in their home nation. They'll be put in a team. I would say that the training is world class, and they will just be transformed within a year. But some people do it a lot longer, and they end up in ministry. We place people in churches. We have church leaders. So yeah, that's the apprenticeship. We also very quickly have the academy. The academy is a training program or resources for any church in the world to mobilize their young people. So I think one of the big issues we have today is we're just basically babysitting young people. They're visionless. They're not that interested. They're being turned off. In actual fact, if you give them a real vision and purpose, they're incredibly passionate and can be incredibly self-disciplined as well. So we've been running the Academy program, which is a program where we train and mobilize young people, again, in evangelism, discipleship, and Bible study. And we've been doing that internally in Pais for a number of years now. And this year we just launched it so that every youth ministry in the world can access that for free. And then thirdly, we have our Allies program, which is where we offer training, teaching, consultancy, and resources, and a forum for church leaders to join. So again, it's about being missionary outfitters, where we see ourselves as a specialist organization that comes alongside others and gives them an opportunity to live life on mission.
Wow, lots going on. I want to get into the history of where Pais came from, but you mentioned that you're working in business as well. How do you do what we might associate with church, with mission, with outreach? How does that work within the context of commerce, within the context of a business?
Well, first of all, just the little kind of spin on that is that we ask what we call Jesus questions. And one of them is, why is it we spend so much of our time and resources and energy inviting people when Jesus spent most of his getting himself invited? So we kind of specialize in getting ourselves invited. And one of those places we get ourselves invited into is businesses. Obviously, we want to invite people to church, but we just think there's another half to this as well. When it comes down to businesses, it's not that dissimilar from schools ministry, which is what we do a lot of, where businesses will invite us in, often from the purposes of kind of HR, human resources. So there are local businesses here where our teams go in and run a lunchtime kind of prayer stroke Bible study. So people can come, they can receive prayer, they can receive encouragement, they can just talk to somebody if they need to. But also we run what we call Haverine Bible Studies. It's a Bible study designed for people to participate, people who are searching, people who are interested, people who are growing in their faith. So we run those kind of things. We run Because You're Loved, which is just a really positive program that helps people understand God's love for them, but it's very practical as well. So we can run that. And then finally, where you did lessons with Pais in schools, we essentially do lessons using the Shapes test. The Shapes test, people can go on theshapestest.com. It's a personality test, but it's super practical. It helps people build something good together. So, of course, a business would love us to come in, help people understand who they are, how they're different from each other, how they can work well with each other, how they can cope with stress in the workplace, how leaders can bring change, understanding the different personality types, what motivates people, what demotivates people, and a host of other very, very practical tools. So we bring that into businesses as well. So it's not that dissimilar from when we go into schools. We're providing a resource that the business wants, that has common values, and obviously we work within the remit of the business. Often we'll get opportunities to share our faith, but we do it in a way that's not awkward or weird because they're asking us the question.
Wow, I didn't know about the business side. That's really interesting. I guess in a way, my simplistic view might be, in a school context, we might think of a Christian union, which becomes a core for some worship or some activities together. But in a business context, is it sort of not that dissimilar to what we might think of Christian union within a school context?
Exactly. Yeah. Some businesses do. So there was, I was in a church a while back and probably a few months ago and just taught them through the way we do Bible study, which is this very interactive methodology that Jesus would have used. And one of the ladies really loved it. So she works in a company, and this is her words, not mine. This is going to sound really bad, but she said it's all women, and it can be a bit catty, and it can be a bit, people can argue with each other and stuff. So she went to her boss. It's like shift work, and she said, on my shift, if I set up a kind of like 1 hour Bible study stroke prayer meeting, and we run this kind of interactive Bible study or elements of it, is that okay? And her boss said, sure, you can give it a go, see if people will come, as long as it's voluntary. And it went really well. And then he said to her, this has really impacted the atmosphere. Can we do this on other shifts? So right now, last time I spoke to her, she was trying to recruit other people who work on other shifts to set it up in the business. So yeah, something as a Christian union, basically.
That is so cool, though, isn't it? That something, are we not sure about this? Oh yeah, give it a go. And then not only does it provide interest for people attending, but it's actually changing. It's kind of changing the air in the environment, isn't it?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And with Pais, what we do, the kind of tools, we don't offer curriculum so much. We do offer curriculum, but primarily we offer templates. So these are like 4-step templates that you can apply in many different situations. So our Bible study template is how to study anything with anyone. And so once you've learned the template, you can study any passage or any subject with anyone. They could be Christian, they could be non-Christian. They just have to be leaning forward. And so it works in a secular environment really well.
Okay, I like that. That's really, really good. Let's go back in time a little bit. You and I have known each other for a little while. So I was on Pais, what was then the Pais Project, 95 through to 96. It was a year out for me, exactly because it was free and I didn't know where else to go, but I liked the idea of not having to pay to do something. I was in East Manchester. So just give us some of the history of the Pais Project, now the Pais Movement, but how did the Pais Project begin?
Well, it kind of starts, obviously it kind of starts with my testimony. I became a Christian. I was led to the Lord through a teacher. not long after I became a Christian, I had a kind of skin disease. I prayed, it got healed. God healed me. So then I was like, oh, this is real. This is true, you know. And so yeah, I often say to people, it was good news and bad news. It was good news because I realized, oh, God is real, the Bible is true, and heaven's reality. It's also bad news because I realized that the Bible is true, the devil is real, and hell is reality. And so, if this is real, we need to tell people about it. I don't know how many, this is going to sound controversial, I don't know how many evangelical Christians really, truly believe in heaven and hell and really, truly believe that Jesus is the only way, because I think we would probably do more than we actually do if we really believed our neighbours were going to hell. But I really bought into that. I really believe that. And so I really wanted to tell people about Jesus. And, I was just planning to do that in the workplace as normal. But then I went on a short mission trip and I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so then I thought I was going to be trained to be a missionary. I went to do some training. And very quickly, the Lord told me to go back to Manchester after the training. When I got into Manchester, there was opportunity. I won't go into all the story, Andy, unless you want me to, but there was opportunity in schools where, again, schools were having issues. They needed people to come in who would be good role models with similar values. So I got the opportunity to go in, do some lunchtime Christian unions, and then also realize, wow, here are these schools. We don't have to buy the building. We don't have to pay the staff. We don't have to pay the electric bills, but we can just turn up and do our thing. And again, unless you're interested, I won't go into detail, but essentially I was invited into lessons pretty much as a guinea pig, really, as a kind of example, as an example of a Christian or an example of what Christians believe. So instead of bringing in the firemen when they did health and safety, or the police when they did law and order, they would bring me in for certain subjects. So that was great. So this is good. This is wonderful. I'm sharing my faith with people. It's actually helping the school. So as opposed to areas where we're kind of pushing ourselves on people, this is being pulled from me. Fantastic. But my next issue was young people wanted to find out more. They would say, well, where can I go to find out more about God and all these things? And I would say, your local church. And of course, their next question was, well, will you be there? Because I'm not walking into a church. I don't know.
Yep.
And I couldn't be in all these different places. I was all over Manchester at the time. And so what I first did was, it was a place called Middleton in North Manchester. There was a church literally opposite the school. I knew the pastor and said, when I do a lunchtime club for a few weeks, can you come in and just sit in the lunchtime club with me and get to know the young people? And sure enough, he did. And sure enough, he invited people to his church. And sure enough, they went. And they instantly had a youth ministry. And one day I remember him saying to me, I wish I had something like you in my church, Paul. I thought, that's an interesting idea. So I basically just advertised that I would train other people and base them in different churches. And so that's what happened. That's how Pais was born in 1992. I said to people, hey, I'll teach you. It's discipleship, right? Yeah. This is what I'm doing. I know how to do it. I'll show you how to do it. We'll work together. You'll be based in a different church. And then that basically just took off. And in my idea, my vision was one team in North Manchester, which was in 1992 with 5 of us. And then 30 years later, we're all over the world. And we're in crazy places like Islamabad and just bizarre places. Wow. And it's just weird, Andy, to be honest, but it's good.
It's good. No, I remember I met a guy at our church. He was on Pais in the West Midlands or middle of Englandish. And I thought, well, I'm loving the idea of what he's doing. I don't know what I want to do in my life, but Pais sounds like a really good opportunity. I haven't got to pay. I can go and do something. I want to do some church work. Don't really know much about it. And that's where Pais really taught me lots of stuff. My only little, I suppose, funny story is I finished Pais after a year and thought, I don't ever want to do youth work again because I don't think it's for me. And it took God quite a few years before my wife and I then went full time working for churches for a number of years in children's ministry. And I look back on all the stuff at Pais and thought, I learned so much, but I think I was maybe a bit scared about doing stuff, very insecure, uncertain of myself. God took me on a longer journey, but all the stuff that I learned, I still today, and I've said this to you before, but I still take some of the examples and the teaching that you gave us in 1995, and I still apply it into my life today. So your teaching has lived on.
Oh, well, that's encouraging. I think, thank you. I think that sometimes Pais is wasted on the young, because I think there is a depth to the teaching that I think people only realize at a later date. So they hear it, but I'm not sure they fully grasp it. And then it kind of works out in their life later. So I hear that story a lot. I really appreciate it. I think I just mentioned I got back from Kenya and I was meeting with our national directors to do some training with them. And the people were texting who'd been on Pais in Kenya over a period of years. You know, can I come and meet Paul? I've not met Paul. I've heard his teaching, watched Livewires, which is these online training videos we do for our teams, but I've never met Paul. Could I come? And so the leader said, yeah, let's do a breakfast on Friday before he gets on the plane. So if there's anybody in Nairobi, just locally, that want to come, that have been on Pais, and 17 alumni turned up, which was great. But mate, the stories they were sharing were phenomenal. Like, one guy had his whole missions into the local police departments in Nairobi. Another guy was leading like a home church movement. It was phenomenal. And they were all saying what you just said, the training and the methodology, kind of the principles and methodology are the two things, the kingdom principles that we talk about, this kind of kingdom-centric theology, and then the kind of methodology as well. They're just applying it. So it's really encouraging. And we're all kind of saying, how do we stay connected? And we're trying to build a bit more of an alumni program now, because we've got thousands of people around the world that have been on Pais that are just disconnected. So we're trying to reconnect them at the moment.
Yeah, which would be great, because I think there's a lot of good. And I think in some ways, what you're talking about, it's not exactly that revolutionary in one sense, because it's been done before, right? It's Jesus didn't just say, yeah, come to church, let's have a chat. He would go into people's lives. So in a sense, it's revolutionary because it changes everything. And it's actually not revolutionary at the same time, because this isn't new. This isn't like amazingly advanced stuff. This is basic stuff from scripture that we just don't apply. You was talking about the evangelical Christians and how we don't really believe in heaven and hell. And I would definitely say I would agree with you. I think if we really believed in heaven and hell, we wouldn't be sitting in church waiting for people to maybe stumble through the door, might hear a sermon, maybe like the song, maybe, it's all these maybes and mights rather than, if we believe this stuff, we should be doing something. I love that you're not just doing something, you're doing lots of something with lots of people that they can then repeat in their own situation, which is such a key difference between Pais and, if I'm being really honest, other ministries which are buy our material, then you can use our material, pay for it. And this is actually something that people can access, which is so different.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, we say on Pais, the only person you should compare yourself to is Jesus, and the only person you should compete against is yourself. So Amen. We are trying to make it kind of as much as we can how we think Jesus would have done it if he was here today, based on those principles. So we're trying our best. I mean, obviously we're making mistakes as well, but the great thing is you stick at something for 30 years, you start getting things right eventually over a period of time. But going back to your whole thing about heaven and hell, I think I remember Pete Baker. Pete, you'll know Pete. Pete was on Pais 20 years, became national director. Now Pete and Bryony are leading the Life Church in Burnley, great church in Burnley. I remember Pete a couple of years ago saying to me, there was a whole debate, I think, around the time about hell. And I remember Pete saying to me, what's more evil? Refusing, saying you're a Christian but refusing to believe in hell, or saying you're a Christian believing in hell and not doing everything you can to rescue people from it. Yeah. And that was a good point. So
yeah, uncomfortable one, but yeah, it's true. Right, let's go back to some of the story of Pais. So you started this in Manchester. Your accent clearly, if you're not in the UK maybe, but you're clearly Manchester origins, but you're now not living in Manchester. So what's your current situation?
Yeah, so I'm living in Texas right now. And hopefully I've still got my Manchester accent. I think my wife, Lynn, Foxy Lynn, as I call her, she's even more Manchester than me. So neither of us have lost our accents, but we're living in Texas. So what happened essentially, I mean, that's a long story, which we won't go into now. It's a very bizarre, weird God things that happened. But essentially I was asked to come and help a movement of churches in Texas do what we do in England, because they just didn't know how to do it. And then I was told that if you come, we'll give you an opportunity to basically, there's some resources here will help you reach the world. Didn't quite work out the way it was said, through no one's fault. but we ended up in Texas, and we planned to be here for 2 to 3 years, but that was 20 years ago. And again, without going into all the details, it's just a really, really good place to base an international ministry out of. The people here are very, very generous. So that's really, really helped us create a base. We know some phenomenal people that really believe in heaven and hell, really believe that this is the most vital work on the planet and want to resource and help us. And just bizarre, finding out people I knew, really good people. I knew them for years, and only later find out they owned a publishing company, and so my publisher is somebody I know, and just really weird. There's just so many weird things, but fantastic. Yeah, so very strategic that we're here in Texas, and as far as we know, we'll end up staying here, I think.
Cool. I could sit and talk to you all day, but let's move on to something else. So we are now going to have a partnership, aren't we, with a podcast and Pure 24/7 Radio, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so Life on Mission podcast, kind of powered by Pais Movement. It's again, it's a podcast that's going to have everything in it. It's very, very, very practical. What I'm finding is in many churches now, that the conversation I'm having with a lot of leaders is, we want to disciple, we want to get our people to live on mission, but we don't know how. We don't know the practical. We know the teaching, but we don't know the training. We know the ideas, and we know why we should do it. We know what we should do. We don't know how. So Life on Mission it's going to be a podcast that will inspire people who really want to make a difference in the world, but it's going to be very practical. There'll be theology, because we need the theology behind what we do. Our message shapes our method. But also going to be lots of practical tips. It's going to be story-based. So it's basically going to be conversations where there'll be interviews with me where I'll talk through some practical ideas. There'll be interviews with Pais teams. There'll be interviewed with Pais alumni, people who've been on Pais and gone through Pais and how they're still living life on mission. So it's going to be a great place, of advice, practical ideas. People, if they send us messages with questions, we'll answer them. So yeah, basically, if someone wants to live a life on mission, whether it's in their school, their workplace, their neighborhood, they want to do more than simply just attend church. It's going to be a great podcast. It's going to inspire them. They're going to pick up ideas and thoughts constantly, I think, as they listen to it. We just recorded the first one a couple of days ago. Myself, Manuel Delgado is the host, and we had Paul Bartlett, Paul Bartlett oversees like 1,000 churches for community transformation in Australia.
Wow.
So it was a conversation between Paul, myself, and I call him Manny, Manuel Delgado. And I think it would be inspiring to listen to. But it was kind of like in the opener, just setting the scene, really.
Cool. I'm going to go into more detail with Manny the week before the show launches in February, because it'll be on our radio show, station as a show from, I think it's February the 6th, I think it was, Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll come to that later. But I just wanted to talk really quick because I love the fact that I was on Pais in 95 to 96. And then it's amazing how I've wanted to support you guys for so long, never quite known what to do. Here I am with a radio station. Do you want to do a radio show? You said, yes, please. But I was chatting to Geraldine, who you all know, whose son is going to Australia on Pais. And I love this family connection stuff.
Yeah, that was great. So Geraldine was she on your year? Because I remember that was
my team. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So I mean, that's going well back. So Geraldine's in Ireland. She's lovely. Obviously, we lost track with her for decades, really. But then we noticed that, in fact, just slightly aside but connected. On the first ever Pais team, there was a lady called Joanne. And a couple of 2-3 years ago, her daughter came on Pais. So she was the first daughter of a Pais apprentice or son of a Pais apprentice. No, that's not true. There's another guy before that, actually. So it is happening now. So we're starting to see that as a regular thing. So yeah, Geraldine's son's going to Australia. And Australia is really growing right now. We just appointed a new national director called Jesse Skelly, who's doing a great job. Jesse and Abby doing a phenomenal job there. I'll actually be in Australia in about 3 weeks' time, actually. So hopefully I'll see her son. I think it's called Caleb, or I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
No,
I'll have to ask her.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love the Pais Project. I love the Pais Movement that it's become. I can sit and talk to you for hours. We can't. But thank you, Paul. I'm really excited about this new radio show, the podcast that's coming on next month, which is really exciting, and the partnership there. I love the fact that I was on Pace and I can support it in this way, and I love how your heart for not just buy into what I'm doing and then you keep paying me and you can do stuff. Actually, what you're doing is creating generations of people who can help generations of people, and on, continually showing Jesus to people, that light of Christ, and it doesn't have to revolve around one person, which is what I love about the Pace Project. So thank you for what you've created thus far, and who knows where it's going to go in another 30 years.
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very kind of you. Thank you so much. I think, this is the thing in it. You only reap if you're still around at harvest time, and we've just stuck at it. So yeah, we're seeing the fruit of our labor, I guess, which is wonderful. And what God's done is just amazing, really. So yeah, thank you, mate, and thank you for serving with us. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much. We're excited to partner with you and see where that goes as well, and see how many people will reach throughout the world with the message of together, let's do life on mission together.
Amen. Just give us the website so people can find out more about you and the Pace Project, Pais Movement as it is now.
Okay, well, we've got a shorter version now. So pais.life will get you to our website, PAIS, pais.life, and it'll get you to resources and contact details. And there is a lot of stuff on there. So if people want, have heard something particular interested in, and they go to pais.life, there's contact forms. They can contact us about anything they want to chat to us about. And of course, at some point, we'll be posting the details of the podcast on there as well.
Yep, and you have a page on our website so people can get you through there as well. So it's an exciting time to be alive. It really is. God is alive at work, and it's amazing. He's not dead. The church is not dying. God and Jesus are very much alive, aren't they?
Absolutely, very much so. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I will let you get on with your day, Paul. Thank you for joining me here. It's been a privilege talking to you again, and very much excitement here at Pure 24/7 Radio about where this is going to go and what we can do with God together. What He's going to do in us, what He's going to do through us. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Bless you, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.